Hadouch Kabatu, an Ethiopian illegal migrant who sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl just days after breaking into our country via a small boat, has been slapped with a pathetic 12 months behind bars. The 38-year-old paedophile told two teenagers he wanted to have a baby with each of them and attempted to kiss them before going on to stroke one of the girl's thighs and hair. Oh, and let's not forget the adult woman he tried the same predatory routine on, leaving her screaming into the phone, "Get away from the kids." This sick monster, housed in the now infamous Bell Hotel in Epping, taxpayer-funded, is the man who sparked nationwide protests outside illegal migrant hotels, as he proved what the stand-up to racism and, frankly, far-left establishment politicians had said wasn't happening, that some of these illegal migrants are dangerous criminals, a threat to women and girls that should never have been allowed to step foot in our country in the first place. 12 months is all this horrible man is getting. And this farce of a sentence means he could be outside by Christmas. He claimed he didn't understand how strict the rules were here. What kind of defence is that? Is it okay to sexually assault school children in Ethiopia? And if it is, why do our government allow any men from that country ever into Britain? Meanwhile, that poor girl will spend the rest of her life traumatised, her parents inevitably fearing for her safety every day. It's not hyperbole to say she'll be glancing over her shoulder while she walks to school over the way. I might be feeling too exposed. Every damn day she might be feeling like that. Well, Kabatu, however, will continue to be housed and fed 3 times a day in prison. In fact, I'd go as far as saying it's probably better than any accommodation he'd live in Ethiopia. And once he leaves the slammer, I'm sure he'll be greeted with more free accommodation and benefits paid for by you at home if he can't be deported. Which you never know with the ECHR, do you? Well, it's safe to say Donald Trump is right, isn't he?
When your prisons are filled with so-called asylum seekers who repaid kindness, and that's what they did, they repaid kindness with crime. It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. See, I can tell you. I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
It never ends there, though, does it? Just last week, an Egyptian boat jumper lounging in a 4-star London hotel on our dime got 8.5 years for raping a woman in Hyde Park, luring her to a secluded spot like it's a hunting ground. Then there's the Iranian illegal paedophile who stalked and raped a 15-year-old girl in broad daylight on a Falkirk street, bagging 9 years only after cops hauled him off the pavement. And that's before we tally the 200-plus asylum hotel residents charged with crimes this year alone. Sexual assaults, violence, the lot. It's not a blip, is it? It's an epidemic fueled by unchecked arrivals and a system that prioritises illegal foreign criminals' rights over ours. We're losing control, aren't we? Our streets, our safety, our country, to Strasbourg, to the activist judiciary, who seemingly care more about diversity and inclusion than the safety of British citizens. This is nothing short of a political revolution, in my strong opinion, will end this crisis, and it cannot come soon enough.
As a journalist, I always need to remember more in less time. And you know what I really hate? Taking notes. It wastes loads of time and you forget stuff. And that's where Plord comes in. This is the Plord Note, a sleek, pro-level AI note taker that records and creates notes for you. Whether you're listening to a long podcast, stuck in a meeting, or on an important call, Plord captures everything at the tap of a button. Then it gives you a smart, structured summary with all of the key takeaways. It even recognises different speakers by their voice, and you can choose from bullet points, to-do lists, or even mind maps. Your data's safe too, with end-to-end encryption and global privacy compliance. And with Plord's built-in AI, you can search everything you've ever recorded just by asking a question. It's slim, magnetic, under 30 grams, lasts up to 60 days on standby, and over 1 million people are already using it. Hit the link in the description and use code GB10 for £10 off your Plord order. save hours of time, and never miss a detail again. Link in the description below.
I want to get the thoughts of my panel here. Jonathan List, journalist, Chloe Dobbs, political commentator, and GB News commentator, Will Kingston. Hello, guys. Bit of a long walk. I never get the walk. I'm just right here. A very serious story, though, Will, because this country's been grappling with this illegal hotel crisis. Illegal migrants coming to this country for quite some time now. No government seems to take in this issue very seriously. I know Keir Starmer is saying he's going to shut down the hotels, but that still doesn't mean there won't be illegal migrants in this country. What happened today with that 12-month sentence, in my opinion, is a complete farce. The guy's going to be out probably by Christmas. What on earth can we do?
It's repulsive, is the short answer, Alex. And I'm sick of being gaslit on this subject, on this channel, by the lefties that we have on, that somehow say that there's no relationship between the culture that someone comes from and the prevalence at which they are likely to commit sexual assault. Anyone who's been to a holiday in Egypt or much of Africa and has seen what happens when you go with a woman and seen what happens when you are treated by the local population there, you know that when you come from a culture that has very different, and I would argue far worse attitudes towards women, you are going to be more likely to bring those attitudes in. That's exactly what's happened in the case of this Ethiopian man. Now, in terms of your question as to what we can do about it, it is very simple. Stop them from coming into the country. And if they do get into the country, you detain them, you put them in a secure area where they cannot get out and they are not a risk to the population, which is exactly, by the way, what Australia did to solve this problem. And as a result of that, you don't have illegal migrants walking around the streets of Sydney sexually assaulting young girls.
Chloe, you're a young woman in this capital city here, London. This crisis obviously is here. Hyde Park was where this woman was raped. A massive park in London. You know, you'd think this could never happen in London, wouldn't you? Especially in somewhere like Hyde Park, where it's such a big park, but there's so many people there. This crisis seems to be spiralling out of control. We're getting these stories almost weekly. I still go back to this 12-month sentence. For a man, it seems exceptionally dangerous. Not only did this to 2 children, but also to an adult woman. Shouldn't we just be deporting them immediately? Do we really need to be paying for their prison time?
Well, it would be great if we could deport this guy, but it sounds like we're probably going to struggle to do so. So he's got a 12-month sentence. That means that he only has to spend 6 months in prison. But the 2.5 months he's already been there since he was remanded in custody on the 10th of July means he's only going to have a few more months there. Now, what's going to happen after that? Now, the Labour government were boasting about the new legislation they brought in, which means that they can deport people after just 30% of their sentence. But they've only got these agreements to deport first and appeal later with 23 countries. Ethiopia is not one of those. And so they're going to really struggle to deport this guy back to where he came from. So it looks like he's going to be back on the streets in a very short space of time. I don't know if they'll send him back to Epping or somewhere else. And that's going to really concern people. And I think that we've got a big issue in this country of inadequate sentences being given out for sexual assaults and rapes. I think the Sentencing Council need to do a massive review over the guidance they give to judges. Because, I mean, it's not just this. We've seen it, for example, with grooming gangs, where people who have raped a huge number of children over and over and over again being given only something like 2 years.
The Sentencing Council, Chloe, unfortunately, I don't trust the Sentencing Council as far as you can throw them. They spend more time worrying about whether they can actually reduce sentences for people that have come here illegally than they have actually trying to stop these people.
I mean, everyone's just looked at this and immediately thought 12 months versus 31 months for Lucy Connolly for a tweet. There's surely an issue with the sentencing guidelines in this country.
Jonathan, the problem many people have got is that this man should just be going home. And we know that with the Article 3 in ECHR, he'll claim that he'll be killed if he goes back to Ethiopia and all these things. Frankly, I couldn't care. I couldn't care what happens to this man. Most British people don't care what happens to these people. He is a nasty criminal. He's a paedophile. He should just be deported, shouldn't he?
Alex, a magistrate is only able to sentence someone up to a maximum of 12 months. This was entirely baked in from the beginning, as a cursory glance at Google would have told anyone on this panel. A magistrate is only able, and I'll tell you one thing, a magistrate was only able to give 6 months of prison until this government increased it to 12 months. So you can wring your hands and say, how could the sentence have been 12 months? Well, you should have known that because it wasn't tried by jury. It was done in a magistrate's court. If it had been, if the case had been deemed serious enough to have gone into a Crown Court, there would have been a jury. There would have been a jury. Well, that's a matter. Well, that's not a problem problem the question for the magistrate. The magistrate was only able to sentence up to 12 months because it wasn't a rape, for example, which could have brought a more serious sentence. I don't think that anyone on this panel will suggest that an asylum seeker should get a stronger sentence than someone from Britain just on account of being an asylum seeker. Well, that is a ludicrous argument.
I think if a Brit committed the same crime, then they should get a longer sentence.
Because at the end of the day, when people are welcomed into this country, they are given bed and board, given security in a hotel, living better than some veterans who are on our streets, and then they go off literally days after arriving in this country and molest a child and then harass a woman. I think they should be having a harsher sentence, frankly. They need to be set an example for these people because they keep on doing it. If the sentences were tough enough,
they keep on doing it. The vast majority of sex offenders in this country are white Brits.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
We have a problem in our culture as well, Alex.
Our problem, Jonathan. Those people are our problem. We should deal with them robustly. I totally agree. But when people come to this country and they take the mick out of our system, they take the mick out of our goodwill, they set an example.
Well, I'll tell you another thing that's not allowed, and that's collective punishment. So just because you have one bad apple, it doesn't mean that you should throw the baby out with the bathwater and say that no one, for example, should be granted asylum from a certain country because there might be one or two people from that country who commit offences.
Yes, you absolutely should, because you should be putting the British people first. I don't care about your notions of fairness and collective punishment or collective acceptance or whatever stupid kind of philosophical point of view that you came up with in some sort of university grade course. The fact of the matter is there is no value to the British people of Ethiopian illegal migrants being in this country. If you can put forward a business case towards me, Jonathan, which says this is why we should have Ethiopian illegal migrants in this country, I'll have a look at it. But the fact of the matter is you can't do that. And even if it is a small percentage of that total population, that is a danger towards women and children, that is an unacceptable risk. It's as simple as that.
Is your criticism now that philosophical ideas gleaned at university are somehow bad because that's the entire sort of liberal values that this country has allegedly been built on? And by the way, this guy, according to the BBC, this guy wants to be deported after he served a sentence. So the idea that the government would fight that seems slightly ludicrous.
My problem is that we're now being run by these sorts of philosophical ideas as opposed to the common sense of what is in the best interests.
Yeah, well, Will, I hate to break it to you, but for what the bile that Farage spews can also be learnt at university. Universities are not the problem here.
Chloe.
Aside from the philosophy, let's move away from that. What I would say is that if we are going to save anybody, take refugees in this country, look, there are so many people in suffering around the world. We should take the ones that need our help the most and the ones who are least likely to go on to commit crimes like this. Who are the people that need our help the most? It's the women and children. Rather than taking all of these men from places like Afghanistan where women are treated awfully, why don't we take the women and children who are suffering at the hands of the Taliban through legal routes and have no illegal migration
whatsoever? Do you know why we can't do that? Because the government refuses to implement safe and legal routes. So the only routes that people have, unless they're from Hong Kong or Ukraine, is to come on an unseaworthy vessel run by those criminal gangs, and that's why most women and children don't actually do it.
I do think we need to improve the system with legal routes. But it's not one or the other.
I don't care. It is not our problem. End of story.
Use ours, by the way, Will. Use ours. Yeah. Why do you always use the first person plural? As far as I'm aware, you're not a British citizen. So where does the we come from?
The we comes from this is a problem that Western civilization is facing.
What does Western civilization mean? What does Western civilization mean? Do you just mean white people?
Jonathan, we've spoken about interrupting on live television. It is not good TV.
We've spoken about a lot of things. Well.
As we've said on live TV, not good television, Jonathan. Now, Western civilization, which includes most of Europe, which includes Australia, which includes the United States, are falling for the same problem of mass migration and not securing their borders. That is the angle that I come from. And the business case, as I said, does not stack up for this, particularly when you have people in this country, indeed in Australia, indeed in the United States, who are suffering as a result of not putting resources and time towards them. You put people in your own country first.
Brief final word for Jonathan. Go on.
Well, what you really just mean is white people and white countries. And I don't actually think that business is more important than the fundamental groundings of human rights and morality, and that's where you and I differ. OK, well, look, this is not going to be the last case I'm sure we read of in the press, and I don't think this will be the last time we talk about this big issue. Anyway, we're a slight change in tone here because it's time for our latest Great British giveaway, and it's our biggest prize to date, worth over 100 grand.